Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we're going to talk about the Fusion Quick Run 8, the 2-in-1 8-scale motor and ESC, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back. As I said, my name is Jake, and today we're going to talk about this. The Axial SCX6 converted to the RC Speedy chassis, and we're going to replace the stock motor in ESC with this Hobbywing Quick Run Fusion 2-in-1 8 IGHT. That, and there it is. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into replacing the motor in ESC with this Quick Run. Before we do that, this is not open, but I was actually surprised about how small this motor in ESC is. So they are $159.99, and it's supposed to be a direct replacement. See how small that is compared to the one in there? I mean, it's tiny. It's supposed to be a direct replacement. It says on the box, specifically brushless system for crawler. I assume that means crawlers is in plural, but you know, singular is fine too. So let's get it out of here. It's really small, lightweight. Maybe got to be smarter than the packaging. There we go. Got it out of there. It's really small and lightweight. I assume that you could actually probably use this in other 8-scale cards as well. Let's go ahead and get a quick measurement with it. It is sitting at not cooperative. Sitting at a cool 341 grams, which would be about 3/4 of a pound. So it ought to remove quite a bit of weight from the SCX6 here. We'll see what happens. We're going to move the camera over because really what we're going to do is just take the motor out of here, which is not going to be very hard to do. So the first things first is we need to take off this panel. As you can see, this SCX6 has been used. There's quite a few bruises and marks on it. I'll call that character. But I have not been afraid to drive it. It has made this vehicular way more fun, having the cage on it versus being the honcho that it originated as. So we might actually have to take the front shocks off as well. So we'll do that real quick like. If anyone was wondering, this wrap can be had on Amazon. It was like 15 bucks for a lot of it. So all I did was put it on there. Stays pretty nicely. Cut the servo zip ties out of here, so that way we're not taking the servo with it. Well, we got that out of there. We are probably gonna have to remove this side panel as well. I forgot about that. Maybe not. Maybe not. So in order to get the ESC to fit down in there, I did have to trim the the holders off of it. So you will lose those if you do follow the same methodology that I have done here, which may or may not be recommended. This is obviously not final form for the entire setup. I just have been driving it quite a bit because, like I said, it's a lot of fun. So I just kind of scrunched everything together and sent it. Now that we don't need all of this in the way, we can remove a lot of this mess. So one thing to note, in order to remove the motor from the SCX6, you will need to have a 3mm hex or Allen or whatever you want to call it driver. to take the 3 screws out of the motor plate, or the plate that holds the motor plate on, in the transmission. Alright. One more. And it should just come right out of there. Alright. So what we're going to do here is separate. We're going to pull that out of there like that. So everything should be pretty much separated from the motor and ESC. So we simply just pull this top plate off here like such. Set that up there for now, and then the whole plate comes out. And just like that, the old tired motor and ESC is coming out of there. So we're going to remove this motor plate and the pinion gear, and we're going to weigh it to see how much weight we're going to lose. Again, you're going to need the 3 mil to remove the motor plate from the motor. And we're going to wad all of this stuff up, just like the other one. Move the truck back some, because there's a lot here. And we're looking at right at 1.96 pounds. It's almost 1.25 pounds. It's right at 1.2 pounds we're losing with getting rid of this conglomerate of mess here. So we're going to set that aside because we don't need it anymore. We're going to break out the old Fusion 8. Now my concern with this Fusion 8 is the Fusion 10th scale. So the Fusion Pro 2300 kV in smaller format for 10th scale is not really the greatest motor. So they are known to overheat really quickly because the motor and the ESC is all in one. If you've followed the channel for any amount of time, you'll know that we did a dyno test on the 10th scale version of this, and it did not come out great. So while I do have high hopes for it, I also do not have high hopes because I think that it is probably going to overheat rather quickly in situations where the truck is bound up. We'll save the assumptions and we'll just get it installed and see what it does. First things first, I think these screws might be too long, and that they are. So I'm gonna have to find some shorter screws here. So the screws that I just put in there are from this kit I got off Amazon. Probably not the best screws in the world, but it was relatively cheap. M4 screws, and yeah, they work fine. So those are what's really holding this whole thing together. I've not had any problems so far. I'll link these in the description below, as tight as I want them, so we can put the spur gear back on, pinion gear back on. I don't know why I get that confused. So it does need to come out a touch more. Let's come out this way just a touch. And while we're doing that, we're also going to put some Loctite on there. So probably like right there. I'm going to use some of this good old Techno Loctite because that's what's readily available right here. Right about there. Just like such. So I don't know, there's probably 1/8 inch or so, maybe a little more sticking out. And then when we go to put it back in the transmission, the gears sync up really nicely. So you can see that there is a nice mesh there. So all we need to do is put the transmission cover back on, and like that, the motor is installed. So the only thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to re-terminate the end here. I'm actually going to solder this adapter here. So we're going to cut these out. We're going to solder this together, and then we're going to add the JST plug here as we solder it together. And yeah, because we're actually running a 4S 8-scale Buggy battery in the back battery tray here. And I'll link that in the description below as well. So I'm going to get everything soldered together, and then we can put it back together. Just like that, we're back. Got the wiring all squared away. Everything is good to go here. So we're going to put this back together and give it a little bit of a test. First thing we're going to do is put this plate on so that way I can put the shock back in. Boom! Now we can put the screws back in here. Normally put all 4 in before I tighten them. Make sure the plate's in the right place, otherwise you will probably have to loosen it and move the plates so that the 4 screws will fit, and then tighten them all back down. These are the batteries I'm using, these little ProTech 6400s. They work really good. Before plug it in, I'm going to make sure that this is for sure a 4S compatible. 2S, 3S, or 4S. Maybe. You can't read that, but I can. We're going to take our 4S battery and we're going to plug it in. Just like such. And we're going to hit the old power button. See how fast those tires turn? That NSDRC servo is putting in work. Now, I believe it is in first gear. And it is. Oh wow, that thing is quiet. I lied. Now it's in first gear. Oh man, this thing is massive. It does have some power behind it. We're gonna run it real quick on the patio out here. This is first gear, and it is peppy. That is way peppier than it used to be on first gear. Something's not right there. This is second gear. Wow. Second gear is... Second gear is super fast. Way faster than it needs to be. First gear still has controllable climb though, which is nice. You can kind of hear it with the drag brake on. It is working to keep the truck still. But it is working. Let's see if we can climb these logs here. Watch out, Chicken Little. Holy smokes! That is craziness. Alright folks, there you have it. The Hobbywing 2-in-1 2300 Pro. It is for 8-scale vehicles, and it is peppy. It does a lot better than I anticipated it doing. Whew. So right now it is probably 33 degrees outside, and with those few little rips back and forth, the motor is hot. So I don't anticipate you doing that in any weather over 90 degrees without having it thermal or having a fan on the motor to keep it cool. I don't have any other experience with it outside of what you just saw, so take that with a grain of salt. But my assumption based off of the other 2-in-1 is that it is going to potentially be problematic. Thanks for making it this far. We really appreciate it. Huge shout out to the TABO club members, and as always, we hope you have a great day.